straight line. Again, keep in mind, nature is not straight. You will never find a straight line in nature. So making sure that all of those top parts of the reeds are very inconsistent, because we're going to go over them with a very quick wisp on our smaller paintbrush, but I don't want a straight line because it would catch your attention. Kind of just carrying that out and saying, okay, we're going to bring that out to about right there-ish. At this point, I'm going to go back to my very large paintbrush, making sure I wash out any paint that might be on there, get rid of any of that white, because we're dealing with solid black at this point. Grabbing some more of that black, and now I'm just going to fill in. Now, as far as technique inside, we don't care. We're just putting in this silhouette. So this is a shadow, this is a silhouette, very easy to achieve. Just bringing it down the canvas with not a whole lot of regard of what kind of strokes I'm putting in there. I'm just covering the canvas. Once I get that covered, then what I'm going to do is now I'm going to focus a little bit more on the blending between the reeds and the water. So we're going to go moving from left to right. We're going to stroke outwards and kind of bring that paint in. Continuing up the canvas and just kind of deciding where that water line is going to end. So I'm going to say, hey, it's going to be inconsistent. A nice inconsistent water line is much more attractive. Again, much more like nature. Just pulling that paint back and forth. If you start to see a little bit of dimpling, you need to go both directions, that's fine, as long as you cover it. All right. So we've got most of our blank space covered now that we left when we were originally putting in the water here. Now I'm going to jump back over to my number 6 filbert. And we're going to reintroduce some light color. So we're going to grab a little bit of that white, mix it lightly with the black, because we're going to bring in a little bit of gray, just at the edge of the water line. And this is a very, very light touch. You can barely, barely feel your paintbrush touching the canvas. Just kind of saying, okay, here's where it ends. If you feel you've added too much, go back and fix it. Again, I started moving right to left, now I'm moving left to right, carrying out the end of that water line. I'm grabbing my very large paintbrush and just kind of taking away any excess gray that I may have left on the canvas. Letting it remain just the gray, just remain on the outside. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our number 1 round and go in, and we're going to make those really cool, very wispy reeds. Now, reeds themselves are just a very quick wisp, nothing to it. If you're finding that you're having a hard time getting a lot of dimpling, add a little bit of water, that'll help. The other key element to keep in mind is that you don't want to make them all the same side. Again, nature is not consistent. The one thing that you will always help to achieve a really good realistic painting is if it is different heights, different variations, different thicknesses, different textures. Have some jump up really high. Don't put them evenly spaced out as well. Keep them uneven. Now at this point I'm going to grab a little bit of white, reintroduce that as well. Very light. Just kind of taking it up. Continuing all the way across. And this is where you can take some time and really kind of play with it and say, okay, I see some reeds growing down here. They're generally on the water line. That's a pretty good space for them. I'm jumping back and forth to the white, making some thicker, making some thinner. Just kind of carrying them up. And really, how many reeds you choose to put is truly up to you. You can't go wrong. Can't put too many, can't put too few. That's a personal preference. And the last item that we're going to move on to is that bird. So that bird looks a little scary, but it's really not. The key thing to remember is that bird's far away. You can't see the detail on that bird. Don't sweat the detail on that bird. The bird will be just fine if just a hint of the bird is there. I'm going to add a little bit more of my water. Don't forget, that makes it kind of flow very nicely. And just add a few. This is where you can spend some time kind of playing, getting the nice combination of how many reeds you want on there. Now, the last part for the bird is just kind of deciding where you're going to put the bird. So, starting looking at your canvas, it has interest because it's crossing the horizon. So, our bird is about, probably about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. So, use your hands. Your hands are fabulous measuring tools. Just kind of get a gauge. Grab your number 1 brush. And we're just going to put a quick dot, about right here. His head's coming just a little bit over the horizon, and then the tail's coming a little bit under the horizon. Your focus here will be to get the form in. You don't really care about all the details. We're just going to get the form in, starting with the head. The elegance of this bird is the nice slender neck. So just kind of taking out just a little bit of a beak, and then carrying that nice slender neck down. Then we'll kind of go into the body. I'm still using the black and white, just kind of jumping back and forth, deciding, all right, this maybe is a little bit too thick or a little too dark between black and white, just to get our outline. And don't forget, the background colors are very similar to what the foreground colors are, so if you make a mistake, you just go over it. Kind of starting right in the middle and bringing that up, and that is the top of your wing. Pretty simple. Then kind of carrying it down, jumping back and forth between the black and white. We got some really pretty feathers here, just kind of coming out. And again, you don't have to worry about the exactness of this particular bird. He's out in the distance. He's flying off. Ironically, this one is called Romeo, and we have another one where he's going to meet the bird, and it's called Juliet. So, kind of cute. Doing it for Valentine's Day. I keep looking back over to my original just to kind of get a gauge of how I'm coming along with my drawing techniques. And what's cool here is this bird is dragging his legs as he's taking off. So just kind of completing where the legs are. Don't sweat doing all the details on the leg. It's very important to ignore that because we don't want to see that. He's far away. Coming back in, just kind of filling in the body, always keeping the darker part on the bottom and the lighter part on top. Keeping the darker part on the top of the wing, and then the lighter part where the feathers would be. And right there in the middle, we're going to do a little bit of medium gray. And this is again where you would play. Just kind of get the right perspective, the right size. The cool thing about this is below that bird, we're just going to do a little hint of a shadow, because we know the bird is flying over the water. So we're just doing a little bit, just to kind of say, all right, there's some type of reflection on the water. You don't know where it's at. It's just kind of there. Hopefully, some of these blending techniques are ones that you can actually take home with you and use them at home. Play with it, try it, experiment with it. Don't be discouraged. If you mess up the first time, no worries. Let it dry, paint over it, try again. Join us next time with Painting with Picasso's Grapevine. Thank you.